So in this segment we'll be talking a little bit about materials and oil paints, painting mediums, palette knives, brushes, and I wanted to show you guys what we're going to be using for our project. We're going to limit ourselves a little bit. We don't need like a whole bunch of stuff. We're just going to have some of the colors like phthalo blues, some purples. We're going to have some greens, browns, black, white, and gray. Black, really any old black you can find. In terms of white, I would strongly suggest titanium white. And the Pines gray. The Pines gray is really awesome. It's really helps for mixing up, to kill like some of the strong blues and stuff. It's pretty good. Okay, I also would like to talk about painting medium that I'm always using with oil paints. I mix it myself. It's basically 1 part of biodegradable turpentine that I buy in the art store that doesn't have smell, and it's pretty good, and 1 part of linseed oil that you also buy in the art store. So you basically put 50% and 50% of the two materials, and that gives you a bit of a painting mixture. The truth is, if you put a little bit more turpentine or a little bit more linseed oil than 1 part and 1 part, then it's just going to be slightly more than 50% of it's fine. Also, it's just if you have more turpentine, it will be drying a bit faster, and if you're going to have a little bit more linseed oil, then it's going to be drying a bit slower and it's going to be more like oily. You can also purchase something that's already pre-mixed in the art store, and it will be fine. Brushes, we will be talking about brushes a little bit here. I'm using this square brush that I really love, especially for big size canvases. The bristles are somewhat medium soft. They are good for acrylic paints as well, and they're great for this bumpy mixed media texture that I want to cover. They're great for applying sky and blending it afterwards, because it's just like, it's soft-ish. It's not too soft, but it's really wonderful. You can use, of course, something else if you like something different, but this is approximately the size and the shape that I like. Blending brush, this time I'm choosing a fan brush for blending. It's mostly really for blending more of a detailed areas, because the bristles are quite soft, not as soft as watercolor paint or something like that, but soft enough. You can choose any other wide brushes that could be your blending brushes, as long as they're soft-ish, that they're not like really hard bristles there, because you need to blend, and a lot of blending will be the sky really. So there are some other smaller brushes that are just small little things. Okay, palette knife. I personally love this shape palette knife. It's the diamond shape. It's quite universal. It applies really, it could go into like a small splatter of paint that you can apply on the canvas. Bigger ones, they're really quite nice. So regarding paints themselves, we would like to go preferably at least by two shades. For example, like phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. Phthalo blue is a cooler blue, gives us a nice cooler shade. Ultramarine is a bit warmer blue. Going towards reds already, we definitely want purple. Any purple. Here I'm using both two purples, but it really doesn't matter. You can just have any purple you can find. Now, very important, just like our titanium white was very important to have titanium white, we've got also crimson red here. Crimson red is super important to have. Then we've got 2 more reds, cadmium red, and this is medium cadmium red, but like it could be any other red that is a bit cooler than cadmium red. We've got some yellows. In terms of yellows, go free, any yellow you can find. Lemony yellow, more yellow with a little bit more orange in it, for sure. You can have both. Ochras, ochre, any ochre, well, it's already going towards browns. Any ochre, it's very important to have ochre. This one in particular is yellow ochre, but you again could have any other ochres. Naples yellow, I want to also focus on this one a little bit. I personally really love this color, especially for this project. It's wonderful. It's toned down yellow. It's so beautiful to have a little bit of a slightly less bright yellows. Well, basically, anyhow, for our project here would be wonderful to have Naples yellow. Ochres, browns, all browns you can find are great. Burnt sienna, raw sienna, burnt umber, raw umber, transparent oxide brown is wonderful. I personally love Van Dyke brown. Van Dyke brown is it's not a natural pigment, but it's really, really gorgeous. It's wonderful to have for in any oil paint project for sure. And greens, also warm green sap and cold green viridian. So sap green, viridian green. I also would like to talk just a teensy bit about the brands of oil paint. Just as you could see here, I'm not very picky. I have tons and tons of different variety of brands that I'm using, and some of them are pretty cheap and pretty you know, they're everywhere in every store, like PBO and Georgian, and they're fine. I also think Van Gogh is pretty awesome. Rembrandt is great. Again, like sure, I've got some fancy ones that are just just super expensive, but you know what, you don't have to go for a very expensive paint. You could just go for what you've got in your local art store, and it's totally fine, and the pigments are fine. And I could complain and cry about a lot about acrylic paints, but in terms of oil paints, pretty much every brand is awesome.